part of the paramitas, the path of the bodhisattva. Without discipline, there is often said to be no practice. That practice is actually not possible without the idea and the inspiration of discipline. And so we're going to be practicing with that discipline today, because as we understand it, without discipline, our minds will become self-centered, egoic, self-referencing, stuck on oneself. And when that happens, the possibilities for the bodhisattva path cannot be realized. So this discipline means collecting and gathering one's attention, getting it placed exactly where it needs to be. And that means not just on oneself. We also know, of course, in the Mahayana school that that doesn't mean excluding oneself. It means including oneself, but really being watchful that the spinning neuroses, as Chogyam says, about oneself, one's interests, one's preferences, one's prejudice, one's favorite color, the way one thinks life should be, in fact, is the cause of suffering. And while we're caught in the grip or that vortex of self-centered thoughts, the possibility for seeing more clearly the dharmas, seeing clearly that which is needed, said my teacher Joko, is not possible. And I happen to agree with that strongly, extensively. So here's what I want to know. You were invited to practice generosity this last week. And in the generosity practice, you were actually invited to begin to practice discipline. And that means picking the object, holding the object, exchanging the object for yourself, just learning how to receive and let go of the object, and then make an offering of the object. I already know the answer to this, so I'm only asking to verify because I already know how this went. So how successful would you say you were this week in the practice of generosity, exchanging and then offering the object? You can do that privately, or you can do that just in the chat, letting me know how successful you were. Exactly right, Adrian. You didn't do it. I know you didn't, because I didn't hardly do it either. I did it a couple times. I've carried the objects. I still have the objects with me, in fact, here in my special holding place, but I did not follow through. Not successful. Completely correct. And, who else? Be honest about it. How successful were you in the practice of generosity this week? Because without discipline, the answer is you weren't. You didn't. You can't, actually. Even with right intention. So I'm probably there with you, Tanya. I did it a couple times. Here's my object today. Successful once, but not each day. Exactly right, because we have to cultivate discipline. Yep, what we most give is our time. That's right. Remember, I asked for the picking of an object because I wanted us to practice that discipline. And actually, I know that it was very difficult for people. Yep, we didn't do much exchanging. There's a couple reasons, Victor, right? One is that we're not often in contact with others, but remember what I said, there's infinite ways to make the exchange, and even of the object that we were practicing with, including promising the object, letting the person know you had it for them, letting them know you wanted to get it to them, actually going through the disciplined practice of somehow finding the way to get it to them. Yep, got the stone every day, got that part done. But without discipline, I think is the point. Yes, got caught in the, thank you, Renee. You're speaking for all of us here. Got caught in the self-centered mind, got off track. This is actually what Renee is saying, is that without the discipline, we cannot remember where the Dharma is. We get distracted by busyness, by entertainments, by sense door pleasures even. We get distracted by distress, folks, don't we? Completely distracted in our own distress. That's probably a big underline for all of us currently. Distracted by our own distress. And it is in fact discipline itself that helps us, supports us, collects us, gathers the mind, and actually opens it in right direction. What does that mean? All direction. Gathers, collects, and centers the mind. We're going to go back to shamatha today, so that when we finally open, we are not distracted. We open in all directions, seeing clearly. This is the definition of prajna. And without SILA paramita, the discipline beyond typical discipline. We're going to talk about how is it different than typical discipline. We cannot find the way to the other paramitas, including this one that in fact we all see ourselves with deep heart commitment wanting to offer, which is generosity. We weren't even able to be successful in dana paramita, this aspect of generosity, without the discipline. Yep, we can give away time, we can give away the self, we can give away our presence, our attention. We cannot do it with consistency without SILA or SILA paramita. They're pronounced in both ways. Yep, the plan to give away was relevant. If you could make the plan but not actually make the offer, that was not understood to be a problem. What you all noticed is what I noticed, is that to do so with consistency, to do so with complete clarity of mind, to do so in each moment was actually very difficult. I actually was able to do the exchanging because I was holding the objects in my hand. I 3 times did not make the offers. I got a little stuck in thinking rather than really just resting in the Dharma of the like, maybe, but really would they want it? Maybe they wouldn't want it. We understand that to be egoic, self-suffering. Maybe it's not enough. They're not really going to want that heart. I met with my mother. I had a white heart in my possession. I asked myself 1,000 questions enough that I didn't give it to her. This was my own mother. Really, what's she going to do with this? She's going to stick it on the dresser. She's not going to. And really, this is the self vortex. This is the self-referencing. This is is it good enough? Maybe it's not. Maybe they're not good enough. Maybe they're not going to use it well enough. This is the spin of neuroses, says Chogyam, that keeps us from the genuine offer, right? Really, now that I'm sitting here, of course, I was like, what kept you from just saying, Mom, I want you to have this? Nothing but my own neuroses, nothing but my own self-centered spin and discipline. Had I been more disciplined in the practice on that day, which I was not, by the way, the practice completely fell out the window that day because I got busy with some other activities. The getting there, the bringing other things that I was not able to hold the Dharma for myself, by the way, or for my mother. It wasn't a one-sided victimization. We all suffered in some way. The week before in the offer was more successful, yes. This was a practice. And so when I give a specific practice, I'm going to say I don't think they're easy. I think we love the idea of them. I know we do. And also the discipline that we're going to be cultivating this week is necessary. We cannot be successful without this essential SILA paramita. So we're going to practice this today and then talk a little more about it and look at the chapter. And then I will be sending you the chapter today. To be critical of yourself, however, to go, I failed, I didn't do it, This is not skillful or helpful. And actually what we know is that it really spins the self-centered thought, doesn't it? And so we thought, boy, I'm going to be successful. I'm really committed to this. I really want to practice last week in the exchanging one hand to the other, and then in the offering of the object. We're going to go back to that this week. But we have to do so with discipline. That means not only setting an intention, but holding the intention in some disciplined way. Before we start, I want to ask one more question, which is when you think of the word, I'm laughing to myself already because I've already happened for me. When you think of the word discipline, what other negative words do you think of? When you think of the word discipline, what other negative words do you think of? We don't have a very loving relationship with discipline. Yes, it was very hard to select someone. I had the same problem, Annika, as I was telling you. Yes, setting the ideal for what the giving looks like is beautiful and dangerous. We'll talk about why, because then we're going to end up feeling failed, aren't we? What other words is the poll that we're doing now? What other words do you have for discipline? I'm particularly looking at the negative ones: rigid, restrictive, punishing, spanking, fixed, boring. Yes, constricted, punishment, boredom, boot camp. I love that. No fun, confined, oh, beautiful, boxed in, no freedom, not creative. Thank you so much, because that's what we're up against in SILA PARAMITA. We're up against the belief thoughts that somehow it's limiting, somehow it is renunciation, somehow we're going to be deprived, somehow we're going to have to suffer, by the way, right? This is the idea of discipline. Actually, the reality of this discipline is that it is done completely for your happiness, completely for your ease, completely for your joy, for your being your greatest, most abundant, most available self, and it gives us the most in return. But I have to tell you, this is what we're up against. By the way, we are up against these negative belief thoughts that in fact are not true. I'm hoping in the practice today, we will make contact with the truth of the discipline in our shamatha practice. I like the words, Chris: accountable, difficult, and keeping on track. That's a pretty lovely neutral one. Let's stick with Caroline's keeping on track. Consistent, yes. I'm going to use words like unconditional, always available, something you can count on, no matter the condition. How about that? Something you can count on in this discipline, no matter the condition of the moment. No feel like it, not feel. The discipline invites a constancy, a momentum. Let's think of the positive words now before we practice. What would be positive frames for the discipline? Because we're starting to naturally go there. Consistent, positive, momentum, benefits for the greater good. At times not easy. Yes, correct, Tanya. Life-sustaining, structure, support, right? Base, foundational, balance, accomplishment. Yes. Other positive words: with discipline. Look at what comes with it. Safety, love that one. Strength, yes. It is resilience building, strength building. Virtuous, virtuous, support, right? Accomplishing, goal meeting, presence. It has potential. It has a fierce heart. Thank you, Lisa. It has a fierce heart. And it is prioritizing, Dennis, thank you again. It knows what is most important in the discipline. We are not distracted, are we, by this and that. We know clearly what is in front of us that needs to be attended to. And so we don't get thrown off by these, should I, would I, could I, maybe not, but am I gonna, they're gonna use it? Maybe they're not gonna, because the clear seeing, the clarity, yes, thank you, is very, very direct. It's very direct. Andy said something, I see that Annika said that I must have missed, I apologize for that. I'm going to flip back just to make sure, but we get this idea: unwavering, imperturbable, unshatterable. Remember our, we read a poem recently, not frail, not weakened, not distracted, non-reactive. Actually, we could say easily then enlightened. Freedom. Yes, the truth of freedom is comes only, by the way, through the door of SILA, PARAMITA. Why don't we practice together? So I'm taking my object, and this is my object today. I want you to find yours today. We're going to continue the practice this week. It doesn't really matter what it is. So be watchful of that distracted mind. It matters that you hold it with consistency, with constancy, with unconditionalness, and that we then offer that. I'm placing mine down for a moment. And so come off your chat now as we prepare for practice. I'm on record. I've made a promise to do that, to check for that. And as you set yourself for the practice, be watchful of the rigidity. Remember the negative frame that we can place on discipline. This idea of rigidity, a fixedness, it's actually the opposite. It is coming into really repose, rest, completeness, wholeness. And actually, this is not where the effort is. The establishing oneself for the practice. I have to say, I've noticed we're all very, very good at this. And I appreciate that because it will set us up for continued discipline in a very positive way. So we're going to take a big in breath. Let's breathe in together. Big in. And blowing out all that negative frame. Rigidity, fixedness, punishing, spanking. Let it go. Breathing in. Remember this unshatterable, imperturbable, always available, ever present. Finding the way to breathe that. The unbroken. The non-distracted. Non-reactive. Non-clinging. Letting be. May this practice of SILA PARAMITA be a benefit to all beings everywhere, without exception, omitting none, freeing us, inviting that freedom for us all. And so we're simply going to begin by gathering the attention, finding a place in the body or maybe in the whole of the body, where we can often begin with some ease, to rest the mind. We want to be watchful as we consider SILA PARAMITA, not to be rigid, fixed, harsh, condemning. We're already expert. A place to rest the mind, see where it goes. We now know for sure that trying to jam the attention on the breath spot is actually harmful. And so we might pick a general area of the body, the whole envelope of skin, and gently place and rest the attention there. In this calm, abiding practice, we begin gently, slowly, and with commitment, with intention. We're going to stay engaged in the experience of body breath for this whole practice. And as we're feeling into the body, this whole body sitting here, see where you notice the vividness, the aliveness of the breath. And just gently beginning, like being called by a best friend, gently turning towards. And SILA PARAMITA is already engaged, because we notice what there the mind is moving towards the body breath and then away. This is not something to see as the problem, a difficulty, or a failure. It's simply an opportunity in which to invite the mind home. This by itself is SILA PARAMITA, inviting the mind home again and again. Placing the mind, the first act of discipline. The commitment begins here. And then this commitment to paying attention breath by breath. Noticing where the mind is. And in the noticing, the responding, the caring commitment to come back to the breath. If you could imagine holding that child gently, lovingly, so that they could rest. It's not forceful, it's not a squeeze. It's actually to invite that freedom. Freedom to rest in being. SILA, PARAMITA can only be expressed and manifest this one breath. It's not climbing to the top of the whole mountain. It's simply this one breath. For this practice, I use both the in-breath and the out-breath. We want the handle, we want the anchor, we want the stability, the support, each breath. Be watchful of the myth that we have to stop the thinking or stop sounds. This isn't accurate. We're going to let all of that be in the background of awareness as we place precise attention as best we can in the direct felt physical sense of the breath. There is no drama, there is no storyline. There is no I, no success or failure. These are all distractions. And we train in SILA PARAMITA by returning to the breath, centering ourselves there. And then sustaining attention, breath by breath. As Jogyam says on the infinite laned highway, once we pick our lane, we can actually settle in, relax. We don't have to bear down. We don't have to become punishing. We ride along breath by breath. This discipline is a quality of guarding the mind, but without thick boundaries or borders. It's gentle, it's restful. We've already picked our lane. Very gentle movements back into the lane. Soften the body, relax the face. You already know how to do this. You might even enjoy the drive. The ease and the freedom comes because we know where we're going, just this one breath. Watching for the tendencies of the mind to tighten around the breath. This is not an improvement. In fact, we're afraid we can't stay in the lane, and so we begin to grip. And so remember, we do a better job when we pick our lane and relax. Let the breath be the driver. thoughts about the breath, thoughts about the self, thoughts and evaluations about the practice swerving into the other lane. But we can always come back right here, right now. Recommitting, re-intentioning, an aspect of SILA, PARAMITA. Begin again. When you're trying to breathe the breath, you're gripping the wheel. Let the breath breathe you. Seeing if you can feel the stability, the calm, the steadfastness. Freedom. Distracted. Not caught lane. And thus we train to cause least harm. One form of paramita. When we're not swerving in the lanes, we're not causing accidents and problems for ourselves and others. And the second level of SILA is that we might actually offer a direction, a path, a way, that our stability, our calm, our ease is an offering to others. Resulting in we do so not only for ourselves, for all those others on this highway, all those others in this life. Offering that ability, that calm, that ease, and freedom to them. And as we know the way, as we are clear of the path, we become more easeful, more open-hearted, more generous, more skillful. And so taking a moment as you just feel into the body and offering yourself what is needed to unbind, untangle. And the question I have for you is, do you feel now, from this practice of SILA, PARAMITA, the shamatha practice, do you feel more or less available to dana paramita? More or less available to dana paramita? Is there more of you to contribute? More of you available from this disciplined practice? Or has it limited, eliminated something? What's your experience with that? Yes, it allows us to let go of the irrelevant stuff, not be caught in the other lanes. That unwavering sense. We know the direction, we know the way, we know the path. And not only do we have a commitment to it, there is a kind of momentum in it as well. And the question I have is, can you feel that? Just right now. Stability always seems to be a precondition for helpful giving and presence. Don't you notice? There's a greater wholeness. There's a greater available tank here. There's greater clarity here. More relaxed, and yes, less guarded and protective. There's actually more to offer. Not just the direction of the offering. The truth is there is more available for the offering. That's completely correct, because we're not so distracted. Our energies are not being wasted by just trying to stay out of the way of the other cars, if you could imagine that analogy that we're continuing to use, that Chogyam himself used. The calm abiding opens the heart, and so there is an openness to offering. Yes, there's more to offer. There's a greater sense of flow and capability in the offering. We feel more available, clearer in the offering. It's all completely true. Anything else we want to say about this practice? Just taking a moment to check in on that before we go to chapter 28 and take a little look at Chogyam's language for this practice of SILA, PARAMITA, essential, foundational aspect of the practice. Anything anybody wants to say, please feel free to come on. If so, or write it either way. I'll wait a moment. Are we good? Okay. Why don't we go then? I'm going to see if I can't pull up the chapter for us. And let's take a look at that together. And remember, if you were waiting for my chapter, you have not yet received chapter 28. I actually didn't want to send it. A, the file was too large, and B, I thought the practice of it was likely more important first. And so here's what Chogyam has to say, and I've just underlined a few thoughts. One of the things he says is that the discipline is a way of getting out of this distracted over-focus and thinking about yourself. It's rather like a vortex. It just spins in on itself. It doesn't actually allow any air or room. There is no capacity for true generosity as we just rotate around this self-making, self-centered focus and holding. And so what he begins by saying is that, of course, the discipline itself takes us out of or away from that distraction, that reactivity, and that aggression. Remember, he's used all these words, the neuroses, as the forms of dukkha and samsara that we are caught in as we are self-making. And so he's saying the discipline simply not to get in that vortex. And the vortex has an energy. It has a momentum once it builds, and can actually cause harm, both for you and for others. He says that in this way, in this disciplined way, we become more skillful. We become less dangerous. We become less distracted. These are all the words that he uses. Sultram is the Tibetan word, I believe, and means, I think the way I've heard it described as gentle properness. And he's written here, proper behavior, a proper way of being. And I've heard gentle, proper as part of that. The reminder here in the last yellowed part, you are working much more for others. The way it's explained often in the difference between the Hinayana and the Mahayana, which is the Bodhisattva path, is that in the Hinayana, you're driving yourself. You're in the car, you're driving yourself to safety, to freedom. And in the Mahayana, the difference is there is no one car, it's everybody. You are committing yourself to the path, not only for you, but carving the path for everyone, and walking the path, not only for you, your own well-being benefit, but for everyone. So everybody's in the car with you, if you could think about it that way. There is no distinction or separation in the Mahayana school. Everything you do, every act of kindness, every moment of dana benefits not only you, but all others and all beings. And because we have so understood for the last 5 chapters the concept of that emptiness, we're going to go to the word for today, non-separation between you and others, or interconnection between you and others, that everything you do, that everything you think, that everything you speak becomes an act of skillfulness, of kindness, or one that can contribute potentially to harm. In the Hinayana, he's saying here, just know the first work is to save yourself, put on your own oxygen mask, as is often talked about in the fullness trainings, that you must save yourself before saving others. It's already understood that you've done that, that you're far enough along in the practice path to be operating in a way that is sufficiently skillful, that you can now open to include not only yourself on the path, but the aspiration to practice for all beings. Here's what I would say about that. If you've had that thought, you are ready for the path. If you've had the thought or the understanding at any time, not only is this benefiting me, but it is actually benefiting others, and you know some truth of that, you are already on Bodhisattva path. Not everyone arrives there. If you're drowning, if you're struggling, if you're really, and you perceive in some way that is your own dilemma, your own difficulty, you're not seeing the truth of that in all beings, then the truth is you're on the Hinayana path, and the goal there is to cause least harm. Right? That you protect yourself, that you guard yourself, that you practice for yourself, so that there is not that harm. But if you've had the thought, others just like me know this. If you've had the thought, I could resist here, if I could turn towards something virtuous or wholesome, others would benefit too, then you are clearly on the Bodhisattva path. So don't make it complicated. Remember, we tend to too much make the Bodhisattva path about success and failure. And that's the limited ego stepping in. Remember, the willingness to fail again and again is an essential part of the Bodhisattva path. If you do not practice SILA PARAMITA as well, it is as if you have no eyes and you cannot see clearly. You have no legs and there is nowhere to walk. I love the analogy. If you really don't understand the necessary discipline of the path, there is no path, actually, and there can be no fruit on the path. And this is the understanding. It's no practice, no path, no fruit on the path. And I think he speaks to that a little bit here. I said it more spontaneously, but I think he wrote something like plowing the field in order to sow the seeds. If the field is not properly cultivated, there can be no benefit. There can be no fruit. There can be no practice and no path. Discipline in the ordinary sense of the word has a quality of tightening up. He's saying what we said at the beginning, didn't we? I asked for other words that people thought of as, particularly in the negative sense, around discipline. And what did we come up with? Harshness, punishment, not good enough, constricting. This is our common, and that's what he means by ordinary, common sense of discipline. But he's saying this is not the truth of discipline at all. And hopefully you got a little of that experience today. With these eyes, with these legs, with the steering wheel available to us, we can actually go in the right direction. We can be most skillful and then be most skillful not only for ourselves, but really be skillful for all beings. Confusion, much of the confusion you experience in your life is due to being unable to see the Dharma properly. And what he's saying there is that without the discipline, without the one-pointedness, without the stability, there is no way to see or know Dharma correctly. And a word I know is used in here, yes, intelligent discipline. This sultram, this idea is that we become more skillful, more intelligent, see more clearly, not only from our own self-focused perspective, but really from the perspective of all beings, others. This is the action to take. This is a way of being that will be of benefit and is reflecting the goodness of the Bodhisattva aspiration. It's a way of making yourself more available to the practice. That was the question I asked you at the end of the practice today. I said, do you feel more available, more present, more whole, having more to offer? Or do you feel less out of the very disciplined practice? Did you feel punished? Did you feel deficient? I'm hoping that the answer is no, because that would have been something you were self-constructing if it felt that way. Proper, he just wants to be clear that you don't take proper as good and bad. He's saying here that proper is simply being in accord with nature, the natural laws. That's actually what the Dharma is. The Dharma is just the truth, the reality, both the relative and the ultimate or absolute realities, that there is no distinction, that there isn't this or that. Remember, we talked about this before, that the Dharma cannot be seen clearly if we are in distraction, if we are caught up in self-centered thoughts, if we are seeking only relief, pleasantness, because then discipline is not necessarily possible. Did you notice at the beginning of the practice then that there is a little energetic requirement? It's not just, oh, fall in. I have to keep, there is a disciplined come back, a disciplined stay, a disciplined repeat, a disciplined, right, unhook. This is all an aspect of the discipline, and that the discipline has really the greatest fruit, like a wish-fulfilling tree or jewel. And these words are written in Shanti Deva's The Way of the Bodhisattva, a wish-fulfilling tree with unlimited bounty, and fruit. And you can feel the richness when we commit ourselves as we have. We find comfort in discomfort. I thought I better underline that because our general relative sense would be, what? I don't know what he means by that, but I definitely don't feel comfort in discomfort. What he means is, let's think of the analogy of going to the gym. And I've just started hiking more regularly. And I'm laughing because just about every night I lay in bed going, ow, wow, that muscle, that calf muscle, that hip boy is talking to me. And but we do so with a certain kind of joy, with a certain kind of understanding that on the way in SILA PARAMITA, that there will be some discomforts in the development, in the growing of the muscle, in the growing of the capacities. Isn't it true? We are breaking out of our self-centered tight spot, and there is some ache, a tenderness even sometimes that comes with that, that is just a necessary part of the path. There's no real way around it. I'm laughing because my hips are hurting today, but I'm smiling with it because yes, this is a part of the necessity in the development. And we begin to settle something into that. You begin to understand and say, yes, as I am growing these capacities, what will naturally happen is that there's going to be some discomfort. It's going to be with some effort. Can I make the effort joyful? Can I understand that there's no way that this is a part of the path and commit myself as completely as I can? And then he says, and then you can begin to take pride. It's a dangerous word, isn't it? Pride. But you can, I would say you feel the goodness in it. And there is joy in that. I'm developing capacities, developing strengths, cultivating resilience, good-heartedness, boundless heart in a way that feels good, even when we're a little bit achy or tender. He says, let's not make a big deal out of it here. Let's keep it simple. Let's use bare attention in the path of discipline. Let's not make it no big deal, as Pema says. And if we are making it like, ow, ooh, that we're once again self-referencing. We've sucked back into the self vortex. And of course, we're going to hurt more. That's certain. There is suffering there, not only from the achy muscle or the tender heart, but actually the self-pity that we bring along. This shouldn't be happening to me. The incredulousness I think we can have about it. Like I shouldn't ache. There shouldn't be any discomfort for me. Why should I have to endure this momentary difficulty? It should just be easy, and we can wrap around ourselves a little too easily there, and we've all done it. I know I have. So, you know, like, why me? Why do I have to do this? And that's a sort of self-pitying that comes also with self-blame, just so we know they go beautifully together. One doesn't exist without the other. Discipline keeps us from both the extremes, with a big hammer up and down. Finally, there is no chance to get carried away by either storyline, the self-blame or the self-pity, with anything, neither happiness or sadness. We don't get caught up in the moods. We don't get swayed by momentary conditions or risings. We stay steady, we stay calm, we stay open. Simple, straightforward, naked. Without companions. What he means there is that we don't look for this buddies, like, I don't know how to put this, that the commitment has to come out of us, though it is for all beings. We understand that it will also be lonely at times, that you will be the only one. that you might be the center of the storm for a moment, that it may only be you, and that we ultimately cultivate the courage, the fearlessness, and the commitment to do so, even when no one else is there with us. That's what he means by that loneliness, that we have to do it because it is the Dharma, it is right, it is good, and our clear seeing should lead us, not do we have our buddies with us. In fact, what do we know? Most often we have our buddies with us in samsara, in the suffering, very much more so than in this path, which is why we so need wholesome and friends and others in the Sangha to walk with us, because it's a more difficult path for certain at the beginning, though it has a much greater destination in mind. Without discipline, it is difficult to free yourself from these preoccupations. We already know the truth of this. Eventually, we overcome this occupation altogether. In SILA PARAMITA, we don't get distracted by, but this would be more pleasant. This could be a lot more fun. It doesn't even really come up. It's just on the path. The path is this. We're not lost in frivolity. He uses that word here. It can mean being crazy and indulging. I like the indulging part. Unnecessarily. We get lost. We get off track. We overdo or underdo. We can't get the right measure. Right inward measure, and that's what he means. We're swerving on that highway, causing ourselves a lot more energy, a lot more time, lots of wasted energy and time is the frivolity that I think he's referencing here. Creating further confusion and also suffering. He's saying that with discipline, we tend not to avoid reality. We have a greater muscle for turning towards realities, even when they're difficult. We don't look for the escape route so much. We're not in pleasure seeking quite so much. We recognize, at least when we're pleasure seeking, and we know that it's time limited, that it's only got a little juice in it, that it's really not going to get us far on the journey. In fact, it may distract us and take us off the path altogether. And in recognizing this, we are less compelled to go in that direction. We know it's a detour. We know, no matter how gorgeous it is, that really we're going to have to swing all the way back around. And it's going to take effort and time that ultimately does not bear the fruit that we are ultimately truly seeking. The idea is to overcome the busybodiness of excuses. I loved this. We stopped making excuses for why we didn't, how come we couldn't, what else was going on, the 25 other reasons. I remember practicing in this very way, right? I had every reason why I didn't practice that day. I could come up with more than anybody I knew. It was dangerous. I have to tell you, I was smart enough in that way to be dangerous to myself and to others. I had a lot of good reasons, including a child with special needs and working full time and running a business, blah, 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 blah. I had a lot going on there. It was not sufficient reason. And in fact, there may be in some interesting ways more going on now. But because of the clarity, because of the commitment, I am not lost in that way. And without the discipline, ultimately, folks, I got to tell you, we spend a lot of time being lost. Freedom means that you are free from being belabored and enslaved by your own mind. Whew. Freedom means we are not lost, that we see the path and we have some essential commitment to it. We also don't give in to the paranoia. I don't know if I would have used paranoia as the word. Truthfully, I would have used doubt, I think more. We do not give in to the doubt quite in the same way. There is a confidence in the muscle building. There's a confidence in the path. There is enough fruit being cultivated that we go, this is the way. And every other direction, no matter how pleasant, and it doesn't mean we don't experience pleasant, but we don't get distracted. I actually think the greater pleasant is the path, by the way. Wisdom seems to be the source of the discipline. Yeah, this is the wisdom that says, this is the way, and it is the greatest joy. It is the greatest ease. It is the greatest contentment. There is not another way, at least that I have found. And so our commitment to it, and then the disciplined effort as a result of it, becomes stronger. We can step beyond busyness, preoccupations, claustrophobia, and this paranoia, I think, doubt about potential attacks on your survival. We go, this is the way. This is the way to my survival. This is the way to greatest ease and happiness. You do not have to find candy right away. First, you have to find the vending machine and put your money in. I thought that was hilarious. He's saying, yeah, there's a little bit of work in this. But the work leads to something quite amazing. It's sort of, if we're using the analogy, perpetual candy, forever candy. All the goodness is actually right there in it. Let me see if there's anything else. He's saying you already possess this. There is a wisdom already in you. That's the absolute bodhicitta. There is the heart that already knows the truth of this. It's what kept me practicing truthfully when I hated everything and everybody around the practice myself. It was too hard. I didn't want to do it. My life was too difficult. I couldn't think of enough reasons to do it. Some other wisdom in me knew. And I am so grateful for that. And that's the wisdom that they're talking about. The one that will keep you in the practice, the one that will keep you on the path, the one that will ultimately lead to bearing fruit. And that is SILA, also required SILA PARAMITA. The basis of discipline is the behavior pattern or psychological state of not thinking of yourself as the star of the world. That's quite an overstatement, isn't it? I would say not thinking just of yourself, maybe. I'm gonna temper that because it's quite a large statement. But not that self referencing that just sucks us in on ourselves and is the smallest heart-mind state possible, really. That kind of suffering, that we begin to feel for ourselves enough that we say, I do not want to suffer or continue to suffer in this way. I'm going to stop now. We're going to stop at intentions and actions. I don't want to go on there. Discipline means controlling the faculties of the body as well as your mind. What I think he means there is getting that body to sit down for the practice. That actually you've got to move yourself. You've got to get yourself over into a spot in a posture to engage fully in the practice. So you've got to have some mastery over both of those. Let's see if we have any questions about this. Thoughts about this before we end for today, and I'll give you your weekly practice from here. Any particular thoughts? Please feel free to come online if that could be helpful, and I'll try to get the gallery back so I can see you. Any thoughts, anyone? Do we understand the beauty, the benefit, the goodness of discipline? Can you feel that? And then the work is, can we commit to Dana Paramita again this week, now, with a disciplined effort. With a disciplined effort. What did we see? The good heart is not enough. As good as it is, it's beautiful. It is not sufficient. The paramita that is also necessary, we're going to keep noticing, is SILA, paramita. So what are we going to do? I want you to find an object every day. This is the training. No matter what you're offering, if it's time, offer time. If it's presence, offer presence. What I want you to do is, though, pick an object. It can be as simple as this little heart. I want you to hold it in a disciplined effort, remembering your commitment to the practice of dana paramita, and then offering the exchange throughout the day, and then making your offer in that day, every day, each day this week. Disciplined effort. Find the object, hold the object as intention, with intention. Practice the exchange, just the letting go, and then make your offering each day. It may not be the object. We actually asked us to practice with the object, and I found a lot of valuable insight into that. Myself, a lot of ways I began self-referencing, questioning myself. As Chogyam says, that paranoia, is the person really going to benefit? Is it really? We're not asking any of those questions. We're just practicing the disciplined effort, holding SILA paramita and that intention, exchanging it, remembering it, recollecting it throughout the day. That's what the exchange of hands is. So recollecting, remembering, exchanging. Not only me, others. Not only others, myself. And then making your offer each day. Do we understand the practice, and can we recommit? Can we recommit? You have to recommit because really, what did we see? Dana paramita without SILA will be ineffective. It will be insufficient. It will not be sustainable. And of course, we all saw that. We'll get distracted, we'll get busy, we'll get entertained, whatever we're doing, but we will not be able to sustain the practice. This, of course, applies perfectly to what else? The practice itself, the formal practice of shamatha vipassana. So what I want you to do is to sit. We have at least a 60 breath practice commitment each day, 20 in the morning, 20 in the evening, and 20 throughout the day. That's your minimum bar of practice. If you're practicing less than that, you are not cultivating discipline or a disciplined effort. If you go, whoops, not today, we're going to call that a lack of disciplined effort. And will consequently lead where? Self-centered vortex, suffering, samsara, right? And with the disciplined effort, it pulls us right out of the hole. And so let's commit ourselves again. Anything else anybody wants to say before we do the short dedication? Looks like we're close to time. Let me put my object somewhere. I think I'm going to hold it in my hand. So let's establish ourselves again just for that 20 breath practice. This is, you can get a sense of how that feels. That 20 breath calm abiding shamatha practice. And just like the practice we did today, we're going to find our way to the body. And get the felt sense of the body breathing. We have once again found ourselves on the beautiful path. That highway that Chogyam is referencing. And we're being led beautifully, driven beautifully, instructed beautifully by the breath. No hands gripping the wheel necessary. May we offer this SILA PARAMITA practice today and all disciplined practice throughout all time, and all of its benefits and all of its virtues. May we gather them here and offer them both to ourselves and to all those who can benefit. May we remember our training this week and commit ourselves wholeheartedly. SILA PARAMITA. Making us more available, more clear-seeing, more skillful. May we all be happy. May we all be free from distraction, from reactivity, from aggression, and all suffering. May we all take joy as we recognize the fruit of the effort. May we all commit ourselves to awakening, not only for ourselves, but for all beings. And may this practice contribute. So be it. Thank you so much for your practice today. I will be in Idlewild with Adrian, hiking and doing all kinds of wonderful things for the next couple of days, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. The newsletter will be coming out today. I'm going to take some time once we get settled up there to get the newsletter finished and out. We will not be meeting anymore on Monday mornings. The Monday morning practice with Carrie is going to be put on a pause throughout the summer, and we will be reevaluating Monday morning practice at the end of the summer. And we will be continuing with the Monday evening practice at 8 o'clock p.m. It's now at 8 p.m. The next practice offering will be this Thursday at 7 in the morning with Greg, and then Saturday again with me. I'll look forward to seeing you then and being with you. Thank you so much for this practice this morning. SILA, PARAMITA. Be watchful of not turning this practice into those negative frames that you thought of. Remember, it is the path to the greatest happiness and freedom. I mean it. Give it a try and see. Good luck with the practices this week. Blessings. Everyone be well. See you soon.